Previously, I made a video that looked at the heroes of the DC universe and went over what I would like to see the costumes of each one of those characters to look like in the upcoming DCU. That video was mostly heroes, but I did include some of the confirmed villains as well, like Lex Luthor, Deathstroke, and Circe, some hinted at villains like Lobo and Brainiac, and some heroes who are also villains at times like Red Hood and Catwoman. This video will be a follow-up to that, where I go over some of the remaining confirmed and hinted at villains, some of the biggest DC villains who it's safe to assume will appear at some point, and some villains who, while otherwise not very popular, nor do they have a lot of appearances in the comics, do potentially fit well within one of the confirmed projects, and go over in as much detail as possible what I'd like them to look like in the DCU, whether that be their costume, or if they don't have a costume and there may be a CGI design, and go over that as well. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and help me get to 100,000 subscribers, and let's begin. The first thing I want to look at is actually the loose cannon projects, since they include a lot more villains than heroes, and while most aren't confirmed to be returning, I think if any of them do, their designs should carry over as well. Confirmed characters like Amanda Waller and White Dragon will look the exact same, with the same going for other characters from the Suicide Squad who could potentially return down the line, like Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, King Shark, and Ratcatcher 2, as well as those who are dead who could maybe appear in flashback like Captain Boomerang, Polka Dot Man, Starro, or maybe even Omac from Blue Beetle. The same could go for the rest of the villains massacred in the beginning of the Suicide Squad besides Captain Boomerang, but honestly, most I just think will never appear again. Mongal specifically I could see appearing maybe in a Superman movie where he goes to Warworld. In that case though, I think that she should not carry over design and instead be a CGI character. I'll get to Mongol later on and he will be the same. And finally is one character whose design I think should carry over not from a loose cannon project, but rather just straight up the DCEU, and that's Black Manta. I think they should just take the suit from Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and remove the fake abs design to make the perfect live action Black Manta design. I think they should just do exactly that. The one confirmed villain who I didn't cover in the first video is Anton Arcane, whose name was referenced in some set photos at Superman. As a Swamp Thing villain, his appearance will likely be in Swamp Thing, which is going to be a horror movie, for which his creepy, naked but without any parts showing and with a zombie-like face design would be very fitting, maybe even with some influence from this image of him ripping off his skin. Maybe a bit of his skin could be ripping off. This could be done mostly using makeup, but also can just as easily be done with a CGI design. Moving on to villains who have been hinted at by James Gunn, we start with Clayface, who really only has one design, and it should be directly adapted using CGI with no differences from the comics, since Clayface has never really truly been adapted as of yet, at least not his clay form. A whole bunch of monkey-based characters were hinted at by James Gunn at one point, and I'm just about to go over all of them who are villains. Let's start with the most significant monkey in the DC universe, Gorilla Grodd, who has had a few different designs in the CW, including one naked one with a bit of armor, one with a telepathic headband, and one with a lightning bolt tattoo. When he comes to the DCU, I'd kind of merge all of them, covering him in armor and a bit of cloth, the headband and lightning tattoos, mostly based on his New 52 design, all done with CGI that is way better than the CGI on Gorilla Grodd in the CW. Speaking of improving CGI from the CW, the Ultra Humanite would be a fully CGI white gorilla wearing red with a glowing brain based on his New 52 Earth 2 design. Again, with CGI that is way better than on the CW as he appeared on Stargirl. Titano would be a fully CGI big monkey looking like a regular monkey until he gets damaged, allowing you to see the inside, which would be robotic and glowing green. Monswurmala would also be fully CGI with the red beret and ammo, basically his exact design from the Doom Patrol show, but with improved CGI, and maybe the ammo could be a bit more yellow just to be a bit different. Moving away from the monkeys, because it's a package deal with Monswurmala, is the Brain, who should be a prop with glowing eyes and a fake brain that can move around based on his classic design. Basically, again, exactly like the Doom Patrol show, just with a different eye design that is closer to the comics. Bane has been adapted a few times in live action, but only once as a direct adaptation of his comic design without kind of changing it completely, and it was in Batman and Robin, which absolutely sucked. In the DCU, Bane should be a direct adaptation of his comic design, wearing the black and white mask with glowing red eyes that covers his entire face, and he wears it at all times, he never takes it off, and it has a tube going into it. Beyond that, there would be multiple tubes tubes around his body, and his suit would be this bulletproof vest looking shirt and matching military black pants. In order to make him larger than life, whenever he grows, CGI would be used and he would be bigger than any actual real life human. I really like Mr. Freeze's Arkham City design and would use that as the primary inspiration for the DCU Freeze. His face would be painted blue and he'd wear red goggles inside a relatively bulky metal suit, glowing blue. Something would have to be distinct from the Arkham games, like maybe the pattern of the tubes or the shape of the helmet, but actually not too different because it's a pretty perfect Mr. Freeze design. Parasite will be done 100% through CGI like he was done on the CW, but also with a different design, using his light purple shriveled up and eyeless look with white lines as the basis, all of which would differentiate him greatly from his CW appearance on Supergirl, but also obviously the CGI would be way better. Speaking of villains who appeared on Supergirl, Silver Banshee in the DCU would be done with makeup, a wig, and a costume, as a one-to-one translation from the comics, maybe even using CGI to white out her eyes. Lady Blaze has two main designs. This fully armored one is better, but I think instead of her face being covered in the shadow, it should be seen like her other design. She would have a painted red skin, wearing a metal helmet, and partially metal, partially cloth-based costume that is basically a one-to-one translation of this design, just with red skin. Since he's mostly just the size of a very big person and is mostly just wearing a suit, I think Atrocitus can be done practically. Just cast a large man, cover his face in makeup, and putting him into an armor-based costume based on his classic design. Then again, the teeth might be difficult to do through makeup, and it's just entirely possible, maybe even a lot simpler, to achieve this look through CGI. I'm not sure which one I would prefer. Dexstar, however, should certainly be done using CGI, using his classic design as the basis, a blue cat in a Red Lantern costume. After the DCU/Snyderverse, I doubt Darkseid will be used as a big chapter main villain anytime soon, but I do think we'll get around to the New Gods, and Darkseid would be involved. His DCEU design was good, but I'd like for his appearance in the DCU to have a lot more red and blue, based on his Rebirth design. He would still definitely be fully CGI. Metallo has been adapted a lot of times on TV, but it's either always a man wearing something or a full-on robot one time. In the DCU, I'd like for Metallo to start off looking like a regular person, but little by little his skin peels off, revealing the fully CGI robot underneath, but only half of his skin ever burns off, meaning this would be his primary design, because I think it's easily his best. Specifically, I think it originated in Superman the Animated Series. Finally, for the hinted characters is Bizarro. Bizarro's design is always consistent in being Superman but with white skin, but there are other things that change from time to time. Usually the logo is backwards as well, but not always. His skin sometimes looks broken and cracked, and sometimes the color scheme is changed to a darker blue with purple instead of red. That color scheme is definitely what I would give the DCU Bizarro, and since we have images of Superman, we could basically see what that would look like. David Corenswet would play him with painted white skin that maybe looks a bit cracked, in a Superman suit with that color scheme and a backwards logo. Finally, I'll be covering some of the heaviest hitters of the DC Universe merged together with others who just fit certain projects, all going by amount of comic appearances according to Comic Vine. I will, however, be skipping a few characters I feel like just aren't going to appear in the DCU, don't have a costume design, or just aren't relevant. Maybe certain characters who already appeared in the DCEU, and because of that, I just cannot see them appearing in the DCU. The most recurring villain in the DC Universe is Lex Luthor, but I already went over him in the previous video, so let's move on to the Joker. Most live-action Joker designs kind of just don't really adapt the Joker design specifically, but use the core tenets of the design to make a new one. Using that, I'd have that design be mostly inspired, however, by the Arkham Joker. With a bit of a long white face, they would have to cast someone with a bit of a longer face, purple suit, and yellow shirt, but I'd also change the colors to be a lot more vibrant and a bit more colorful. What I would not give him are the scars that some of the other live-action Jokers have, like the Dark Knight one or the Batverse one, and that's why I wouldn't give him scars, because the simultaneously released Batverse Joker will have scars. The Penguin is a short fat guy with a big nose, wearing that fluffy jacket, a monocle, a top hat, holding a cigar, and an umbrella. However, to differentiate him from the Penguin of the Batverse, they should just straight up cast someone who looks more like the Penguin, so as to not need to use prosthetics, and then his clothing would be more colorful with red, purple, and blue. Poison Ivy has had a lot of designs over the years, but but I personally really like her New 52 design, which I'd adapt using plants as clothing. I also think her being a redhead is an integral part of her design, so I'd cast someone who is a redhead, or if they don't, then give her a wig. There is the question, however, of whether or not Ivy's skin should be green, and me personally, I always prefer it when it is. So basically, I'd adapt the New 52 design, but I'd just change her skin to green, which would be done with skin paint. In the DCU, I'd have Two-Face be a more comic booky version of the Dark Knight design, with the scarring done through CGI again, but being a lot more of a vibrant red, with white hair on the scarred side, and half white, half red, or maybe even half black suit and tie. The Riddler would be very different from his portrayal in the Batman, being a lot closer to his design in the comics, being a slightly more vibrant version of the Arkham City design, but with a purple or green domino mask and a big old question mark on his hat. The Scarecrow kinda has a bit of a different design in every single one of his appearances, so I think the DCU should come up with its own design. What I will say though is I would really like something like this unused Scarecrow concept art from Injustice 2, mainly because I just would like the DCU Scarecrow to have a similarly glowing face. Killer Croc has been adapted a few times using prosthetics, and it simply has never worked. I'd much prefer for him to be done through CGI in the DCU. As for his design, I would take primary inspiration from Arkham Origins, which is larger than any normal man and a bit animalistic, but not completely feral like all of his other Arkham designs were. Finally, a non-Batman villain, we have Sinestro, who would be 100% practical, with the actor either growing the same facial hair or with it added through makeup, his skin painted pink, and the Sinestro core suit design that uses the same material as whatever they end up using for Hal Jordan's Green Lantern suit. Then again, however, maybe it doesn't have to be the same material, it could be armor. I think that could look good. Getting right back to Batman villains, Ra's al Ghul will almost certainly appear with the Brave and the Bold, and should wear something similar to his design in Gotham Knights, being a bit of a mix of armor and cloth, maybe with a bit more green and the facial hair of the concept art. Talia al Ghul would have come later in the list, but let's just jump to her and lump her in with her father. She would wear a matching green outfit based on her most recent green outfit, but also would switch into her white dress or black skin-tight suit from time to time, depending on what she's doing. I think Talia will have a very large role in this universe, considering Damian's role, so I'm sure she'll be wearing all of these at some point or another. Honestly, Talia al Ghul's costume doesn't really matter much. In fact, I think whoever they cast will kind of define the design of the character more than anything. To differentiate from the DCEU Deadshot, the DCU Deadshot will be a lot closer to the classic comic design, having a lot of silver and none of the white. That is, at least not on the costume. The actor they cast should also be a lot more comic accurate looking as well. I really like Captain Cold's New 52 design, and it's that one, unlike his classic look, that was never adapted onto the CW. The suit could be any material, honestly, including armor. The hoodie would be like Green Arrow's hood in Arrow Season 8, and the one change is that Captain Cold should not have powers like he did in the New 52, so his arms should not be covered in ice. The design does not have to change much, however. Instead of ice, it would just be long white gloves. Man-Bat should be done entirely through CGI, using his classic design, including pants. Not much else to add to that, honestly. Cheetah looked pretty awful in the DCU, but I do still think she should be adapted through CGI. As for her design, I'd go for something similar to the Injustice 2 design. I'd use all the same general characteristics, including that same hair color and a little bit of cloth clothing that she wears. All of Mad Hatter's designs are mostly similar and are mostly clothing, so I don't really have any opinion there. What I will say is they should put some fake teeth in his mouth to give him those absolute chompers. In a similar situation to Metallo is Mr. Mxyzptlk, who has been adapted a lot of times on TV, but usually just looks like a regular looking man. Only once did he even wear any costume. In the DCU, they should go all out with Mr. Mxyzptlk, maybe casting a dwarf, and maybe clothing that directly adapts his classic design, complete with the little hat. I could go with or without the hair though, that doesn't really matter much. It's everything else that does. Solomon Grundy should definitely be done with CGI given his size, and I'd like for his design to be similar to the one from Injustice, with a whole bunch of items sticking out of him, and the CGI would be a lot better than it was on Stargirl. Vandal Savage's outfit from Once and Future is a pretty fantastic look, and it's what I'd go for in the DCU, including the long hair and facial hair. Weather Wizard was kind of never given a real costume in the Arrowverse. In the DCU, he should wear one. I'd like for him to wear his green and yellow New 52 design, made with the same material maybe as whatever the Flash suit is made out of, with the coat on top of it. Desaad could very well just be a man wearing a big old purple cloak with only his face and hands visible, and changed to look decrepit through CGI. A simpler design design compared to the DCEU counterpart, but also distinct and a lot more colorful. Like Weather Wizard, Heatwave was never really given a costume in the Arrowverse despite appearing a lot standing for Legends of Tomorrow. In the DCU, he would wear his mostly white with a bit of an orange classic look, complete with the green lenses goggles. It would be explained that it's maybe a fireproof suit. The one thing I take from his New 52 design, however, is that his skin would be all burnt up, as that would be part of his backstory. Mr. Zsasz's live-action designs have always missed something. The DCU Zsasz should be similar to his Arkhamverse counterpart, a bald man that is covered in head to toe with scarring, and whose torso and most of his arms are always visible so that we could see that scarring. The DCU version of Black Mask should not be wearing a black mask like in Birds of Prey or Batwoman. Instead, his face should be a black mask like Red Skull's design in the MCU, done with very heavy prosthetics and makeup. Dr. Light's look would be based on his New 52 design, which is just I think a bit more aesthetically pleasing than his classic, and would glow a bit, using the Superman suit material maybe. The Reverse Flash would simply be a reversed version of the same suit that Barry Allen wears, with the mostly yellow and bits of red, and then a reversed red and black logo. This is even true if Wally West will be the main Flash of the universe. The suit should be the exact same as the Barry Allen suit, but reversed. Going off my original video, this means the same material as the Reverse Flash suit from Season 8 of The Flash. This suit did not look good on Tom Cavanaugh, but looked absolutely fantastic on Grant Gustin, and on Grant Gustin, he kind of looked like the best live-action Reverse Flash so far. So, something similar with a more classic design on an actor who it's made for should look really good. Like every other Apocalyptian who appeared in the Snyder Cut, Granny Goodness should wear more colorful armor, adapting her yellow and blue look with the red cape and also the scales. Also, Granny Goodness should be ugly, like really ugly. Maybe honestly a man should play here. That's actually something that they have done in a few animated properties. Maybe they could just do that in the DCU. Eclipso was done relatively well on Stargirl using a lot of prosthetics. I honestly don't see any reason why they wouldn't just do that again with also prosthetics in the DCU, with a similarly colorful, maybe even more colorful design that just uses a couple different ways to do it, because it does have to be distinct from Stargirl, but I see no reason why it would be CGI. Mirror Master did not get a costume on The Flash, while a second gender-bent version got a really bad one. Now in the DCU, Mirror Master should wear his classic design, all being metal, and then his eyes I think could look like mirrors. I think that could look cool. All of this is true for both versions of Mirror Master. I don't think they necessarily have to look very much different from each other. Caliban didn't appear in the Snyderverse, so as he makes his live-action debut in the DCU, he should be a CGI creation, adapting his classic look, complete with the mane, green and yellow armor, and hunched over stance. I could see Killer Moth maybe appearing in The Brave and the Bold, and if he does, then I'd like for them to adapt his New 52 design in a suit made out of the same material as whatever the Bat suit will be made out of, since his whole concept is that he uses all the same methods and gadgets as Batman, but with moths instead of bats. Because of this, his mask will be made out of the same material as Batman's cowl, and the wings will be made out of the same material as Batman's cape. Ocean Master's New 52 design was adapted perfectly in Aquaman, so if he's ever to be used again, I'd like for them to adapt his design from Flashpoint instead, which uses a slightly different color scheme and a slightly different shaped mask. The whole thing would still be armor though, and honestly it's not as good of a design, but it would just have to be different from the DCEU. Felix Faust's DCEU costume could simply be almost directly adapted using regular clothes and a bit of gold. I honestly don't have any other thoughts on that. Parallax has been adapted once before in live action as a big yellow space cloud. Things should get a lot closer to the comics as we move over to the DCU. Parallax would be a big CGI creation, and like the comics would be this insect snake monster thingy, maybe mildly redesigned to be unique to the DCU, but certainly inspired by that. Mammoth could be the size of a real human. I'd say cast a wrestler or bodybuilder in the role, preferably one with orange hair and a thick beard, although the soul patch from the cartoon works too, and honestly the orange hair isn't 100% a must, and also give him a black suit made out of the same material as Peacemaker's and cover him in all the same gold parts as the comics. For Dr. Psycho, first and foremost, they should definitely cast a dwarf. From there, honestly, he doesn't really need to have any unique characteristics, just put him into an actual regular suit. Amazo's best design, and by far his best characterization, is easily the one from the DCEU. It makes his comic counterpart look absolutely like a nothing burger. In order to get closer to that without being exactly the same, the DCU Amazo would be similar to the recent Amazos in the comics, a mix between the classic and DCU DCEU design, shiny gold and sleek, but with a head pattern and pointy ears, although that pattern and pointy ears are a lot more subtle than they are in the classic design, a design that I really do not like. Swamp Thing will be a horror movie, and so Floronic Man's creepy The Last of Us looking New 52 design would fit perfectly, done through a mix of practical and CGI, maybe building the model in real life, but making it move with special effects. Trigon should be a huge and direct upgrade from his design on Titans, with way improved CGI, a much brighter shade of red, glowing yellow eyes, more horns and spikes, long white hair, some of his tattoo design added in from the Teen Titans cartoon, and also just a lot bigger. His design on Titans absolutely was terrible. It's so minimalistic, so boring, barely red, so just do that, but way better in every conceivable way, like this image you see here, which I photoshopped. Similarly, Despero would be a direct upgrade from the Flash, with improved CGI, no hair, a slightly more red shade of pink, and a bit of a different suit, or maybe no suit at all. All things considered, Despero did not look bad on the Flash, especially compared to Trigon on Titans, but in the DCU, he would need to look a lot better. Psycho Pirate should adapt his classic design, using maybe the material of the Peacemaker costume, and would be just maybe a regular costume with some gold. Black Hand's design would start off as its classic suit, maybe using the same material as Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. Before then, when he becomes a Black Lantern, the Black Lantern logo is added, if that ever happens. I like Kronos' New 52 design and would like for that to inspire the DCU design. It could be armor, that's fine. Abracadabra's Rebirth design is my favorite and could be very easily done since it's mostly just regular clothing, and a bit of unique facial hair that could be added through makeup. Dr. Polaris' classic design would be really cool to see in live action, being armor based with the purple, gold, white, and blue color scheme, and the classic Dr. Polaris helmet, similar to Magneto, but obviously very distinct. Mongol's most recent design from Superman Warworld is absolutely perfect and should be directly adapted into live action. Mongol would be a Thanos-like creature made entirely out of CGI, wearing that same blue and purple armor with the glowing yellow symbol in the middle, and yellow skin. Simon's Rebirth design could be adapted using a mix between painting his skin white and having the top of his head replaced with the brain using CGI. Brother Blood's designs have varied wildly in basically every single one of his comic appearances and even in his adaptations. So honestly, I wouldn't be mad if they come up with something completely original, but if I had to choose something from the comics, I'd go with this New Earth design with the skull on his head, because I think that fits better as what Brother Blood should be used as, which is the secondary main villain who summons Trigon, rather than a main villain, which this demonic form fits a little bit better, but I'd go with the other. In my original video, I said Starfire's Justice League Odyssey suit should be her Tamaranian armor, therefore it makes sense for Blackfire's suit to be simply the same exact thing, but with a black and silver color scheme instead, and then also her hair would be a different color as well. Merlin's comic design is kind of simply just entirely black, and I don't really know what I would add to that. What I would say is that the thing that stands out the most with this character is his hair, which is something the Arrowverse did not adapt, so I would adapt it in the DCU. That crazy hair with the white streaks, exactly that. Count Vertigo's designs vary. I would completely avoid the one from the New 52, and whatever they did in the Arrowverse was just not the exact same character at all. My personal favorite design for him is the one seen in DC Showcase Green Arrow / Young Justice, which is unique and interesting looking while still looking like something a member of a royal family would wear. It would, however, all be simple clothing. Similarly, Killer Frost's designs have varied wildly over the years, and I'd similarly go for a design from Young Justice as the basis, with the blue hair, white skin, white cape, and blue costume. With possible appearances in Booster Gold or Blue Beetle the animated series, Black Beetle should be based on his Young Justice design as well, a bulkier, all-black version of the Blue Beetle suit from the movie. And that's where I'm gonna end this video. There are obviously a lot more DC villains that I just didn't get around to cover. If you want to know my thoughts on a certain villain, then leave a comment in the comments down below and I will reply. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching.